Techwear online. Great. Wonderful to have you, David. Wonderful to chat to you about life, business, church, everything that goes on in between, and just hear your story, really.
Yeah.
And this is to support the, RM Business Link, which is a community of business people, business leaders who are also a part of, New Frontiers churches. And this is just to encourage them as they also think about opening businesses, leading churches. But first of all, maybe just tell us a little bit about you, your family, where you are at the moment, just so we can understand a little bit about your situation.
Yeah, sure. Nice to meet you, Lloyd. So yeah, I'm David. I live in East Anglia. I'm from Belfast in Northern Ireland, and I grew up in a home that was kind of Christian for a while, and then my folks went away from it when I was in my teens, and then I lost my way, went away from God, and he saved me when I was 21, and ever since then, yeah, I've been trying to follow him. And my wife, I've been married for 15 years, became a Christian at the same time as me. Got baptized in the same evening, which is lovely. We've
Fantastic.
got four children, two boys and two girls. And at the moment, what we're up to is we've got a couple of Specsavers franchises, which we run in terms of the business side of things, which is great fun. And I lead the eldership team at Kingsgate in Bury St Edmunds, and we have some influence over the church plant down the road in Stowmarket, and that keeps us busy at the moment.
Wonderful. There's a lot of things going on there, and I'd love to just ask a few questions about that. Just, how did you get into, I guess, business in the beginning? How did you get into franchise, owning
Yeah.
two franchises? Because you obviously must have worked maybe permanently as an employee before that, and then you moved gradually. Just tell us a little bit about the journey into that, and maybe pepper that a little bit with your journey in church leadership, because that probably happened at the same time. If you can
Um,
explore that a
yeah,
little bit with us.
I'll try. So I studied optometry when I was 18. It was just a 4 year degree course. So I qualified as an optometrist at 22. When I originally went in, I always kind of thought it would be kind of cool to have my own business, my own practice. Um, so that was kind of always the plan. I was living in East Anglia, where there's a little bit of a shortage of opticians, and I found out that Specsavers wanted to open a franchise in Dis, which is a town 35 minutes from where I was at. I was still quite young at the time. I was 25, and I thought, yeah, well, may as well, really. So I kind of put myself forward for that. I knew some of the directors in Stowmarket, and they told me about it, and went from there. So I was 26. We opened the store, and that was in 2009, and we had a great time learning how to run a business. Had to employ all these staff from scratch who were a lot older than me. I made quite a few errors in the first couple of years.
Mm.
And at the same time, I guess I joined the church plant in Bury St Edmunds, and I just started serving there, giving there, and I got asked by Norman Bellows to join the eldership team, and I spent a couple of years just watching the elders talk. I barely said anything at all. And then there was a situation in the church that required fixing, and I kind of led through that. It took about a year. And in 2016, I became the lead elder in Bury St Edmunds, and that's how I got involved in both of them, really, Lloyd.
Wow, busy time, eh? Okay, so
Yeah.
you now own two franchises, and how's that going at the moment? Tell us how it's grown, what sort of size is it, and
In
um,
terms
how,
of
how, did- how did you feel led
turnover,
to actually do that in the beginning?
what I feel led to do at the beginning. Well, when the opportunity came up, obviously I look for peace in any decision I make, and
Yeah,
how I get peace is I pray, and I also ask all the people that love me and are godly and will pray, and I see what they feel, and I actually expected some of them to say don't do it, but everybody basically said go for it. Who was a
fantastic.
prayer. I also spoke to my father, he's not a praying man, but he's still a wise man. I spoke to him too. So I took counsel. The Bible talks about in the presence of many counselors, there's
Exactly.
success. So that's really where I went for it. And I've always felt peaceful about it. Although it doesn't mean I didn't feel a little bit out of my depth at the time, because when you're 25, 26 and you've never employed anyone before, it's not easy. Also, funny enough, your friend PJ at New Day, he was preaching in 2008. I think 2008. I could get these dates slightly wrong, Lloyd, to do my best. He preached from the front of New Day, and he talked about word gets, if you're faithful with your giving, word gets out in heaven that you can be trusted with money. And it's something myself and my wife had always done. We'd always, I would say, given quite generously compared to our income. And I just thought this was a really key word, really. And through the business, we've been entrusted with a lot more income than we would have done otherwise. And I think we've been faithful with it.
Oh, fantastic.
Does that help?
Yeah, that's wonderful. So surrounding yourselves with loads of counselors, lots of advice, godly, and also just people who you can trust, from family and elsewhere. That's fantastic. And I'm sure you continue to do that. You continue to surround yourself by teams. Tell us a little bit about that at the moment, how you actually make decisions ongoing at the moment, and are you raising up a leadership team within your business? How do you help yourself to stay right and stay straight?
Yeah, I mean, within the business, it's a little different to in the church, because you're not necessarily going to have Christians in the business. But so I've had two teams in my, how long have I had this now? 11, 12 years? Yeah, 12 years. I've had two teams, and the first team was very, very, very tough, because I put the wrong people in the wrong positions, and I kind of micromanaged. So I was first here, last home. I did all the appraisals. Didn't delegate very well. And like I said, I put people who were kind of smart in positions rather than with character. I mean, the same principle in church, Titus, Timothy, requirements for leadership, just start using them in the business as much as you can translate them across. So the first team was pretty tough, and it didn't end well. My second team now is very, very strong. And I basically have I've got a manager under me and an assistant manager, and we will spend time together every week. And we make our big decisions together, really. So again, it's in council. I've got a business partner as well. He runs the other store, and I run this one. But for big things, we will still talk to each other and make the calls there. And that's how we do it in the business. And then we just employed somebody. You're always trying to employ somebody that you can raise up in case somebody leaves. So I've got somebody under that too now that's just coming through as well. So we'll have that if anything goes wrong with my leadership team.
That's a fantastic principle. So you're raising up a team, and then a team almost beneath that team that you can almost replace anyone, or you could maybe even get another franchise potentially. So there's almost like an expansion plan in the background. That's wonderful advice. And I just love the way that you grew, in your understanding of raising up leaders and, looking at character. Just tell us a little bit more about character and identifying character, and how you do that, in your business, and how do you, give people a bit of leeway to experiment with things that they don't know yet, and at the same time also trying to raise them up. But also being careful, because it is a business, you don't want it to go wrong, and there's actual customers, actual individuals that you have to, you have to have integrity with.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's exactly the same principle in the church. You just have to look for faithfulness. Jesus says, "You're faithful with a little, you'll be faithful with a lot." So I think you don't put somebody in a position over other people until you've watched them for a decent period of time, so that you know them really. I mean, are they faithful with coming to work on time? Are they faithful with doing their job to the absolute best of their ability? And you give people freedom to make decisions for themselves. So I don't like it when people come and ask me everything. And again, in the church as well, I don't like when people come and ask me everything. I don't have to make a decision on everything. And then you just watch what they do with what they've got. And
fantastic.
I think that's a biblical principle. And like I say, it translates into both the work, the business, and the church. Leading is very similar in both, except you're leading volunteers in church and you're leading employees in business.
Yeah. No, that's great. But okay, let's just look at running those two areas of life together. So church going on, business going on, and let's chuck in family at the same time. Just tell us a little bit about how those three have journeyed, those three arenas of life have sort of journeyed. Have there been any pinch points, any tough times that you can maybe just help us through? Just maybe things that you've learned. Maybe not going too fast with young children, that sort of phase. Just explore that a little bit with us.
Okay, I mean, if I miss any of that question, just ask me bits of it again. Having also challenge, I always feel a debt to one of the three. So there'll always be, I'll either feel like I haven't spent enough time with my children this last couple of weeks, or my wife, or I haven't given enough to the business, or I've got two students at the minute that I'm training to be opticians. I've got to give them quite a lot of time. And then church as well, is I haven't given enough time to pastoring or to the church. So there's always one that I feel a little bit of a debt towards. At the moment, actually today, I'm feeling quite good about all three, but often there's one that I'm feeling I need to give some more time to. Particularly as the kids get a bit older. My oldest son is 12 now, and he's going to need me to teach him to be a godly man. He's going to need a little bit more time changing nappies. It's you know how it is, talking to him about becoming a man. What else? Challenging times. COVID was pretty tough. That was definitely the hardest year and a half so far, because all of a sudden the business went from turning over £100,000 a month to turning over nothing virtually overnight. The church went from meeting every week to not being able to meet, and the kids went from going to school to not having school. So all of a sudden you've got to get all three to survive and thrive at the same time. So that was very, very, very tough.
Yeah. And how did you do it? Just give us a few little pointers for how did you manage those three over the last year and a half?
I think it's by the grace of God, and you know what, Lloyd, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure.
Time, eh? A day at a time.
We had to furlough all the staff except for a couple, because we got a contract with the NHS to do emergency eye care. So that kept the business afloat. With the church, we had to get online YouTube videos going like overnight. So I would meet with our staff team in the church very, very regularly, the eldership very, very regularly. Big decisions have been made constantly. So you pray like crazy. You meet with people. There were some tensions. Some people felt we were doing things too fast, some things too slowly. It was quite tough in the church. But everyone, they're all good people, seeing things differently. Very challenging. Praying for unity, praying for a lot of wisdom, praying for a lot of grace. And then we've transitioned several times into how we do church meetings. And then the family, we just started worshiping together in the living room. We had our own church services, and that was been really good for them. And yeah, I guess just looking after my wife as she's doing most of the homeschooling. Does that answer the question there, Lloyd? Is there anything else?
That's really good. That's really helpful. I'd just like to just explore with you just how if you'd give some advice to someone who's working full time and also significant responsibility in a church, what would you say to them? Like, especially if they're at a decision point as in terms of going full time either way or splitting their time 50-50 or some other way. Anything that you'd give, any wisdom on that?
I think you have to realize that you have your own armor. So, whenever David went to fight Goliath, first of all, people said you can't take this. Whereas I believe that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us if we are doing what God has called us to do. So if you seek God, you've had counsel, you feel peaceful, you feel it's right, you can do all things through Christ. So you can be successful in lots of different areas all at once, as long as you're called. So Paul tried to go and preach the gospel in Asia, and God said, no, he can't go. If he'd gone, he would have flunked. But later on, we find out the gospel was shared with everybody in Asia when it was the right time. So I think you just need to find out if you have a call. So it's not necessarily what you want to do, but what are you called to do? And then you will be able to do it. Secondly, I would say that Paul says to the church in Rome that we are one body in Christ and individually members one from another. And it lists a lot of different things, including the one who leads, let them lead with zeal. And that tells me that you don't have to do everything. And people's expectations, if you want to lead in business or be involved in your secular job and also be a church elder or a lead elder, you are not going to be able to visit everybody in the church to make sure that they're okay all the time. And the church needs to be taught what I believe is a biblical model that the elders are overseers to make sure everything gets done, but don't have to do everything. And a big call for the eldership is to make sure everyone's functioning in what they're called to do. And I'm not saying we always get it right, but that's a big call. Whenever I started leading the church, there was an expectation on me from some folk that I would need to stop having my business. I didn't feel right about it. I spoke to the relational mission apostolic team, Morris. You probably know Morris. Yeah. And he said he was happy and peace with me to have the business and the church. And just back to my point about you've got to make sure you wear your armor. People were trying to put Saul's armor on me, if you like, but that wasn't for me. And I think if I was just leading the church, it would probably crush me. If that makes sense. I don't think it would be good for me because I would do a lot of things that I wouldn't be very good at, whereas there are people in the church who can do it better. And because I'm not there all the time, they're released to do it. Does that make sense, Lloyd?
That's wonderful. That's incredible how you describe that, because a lot of people feel in that same position, I think, where there's expectations put on people to go either way. Just I want to pick your brain here a little bit. Just looking forward, looking at the state of the church in the West, what do you think is more needed? Do you think we need more church leaders, just that small group of people, or do you think we need more people in business taking the gospel with them, just leading in that? What do you think you need more of?
I don't know, really. I think you need both. Business people are quite entrepreneurial usually, and they're the ones that kind of apostolic will want to plant communities. I love what you're doing, going into the workplaces. That's difficult. I get excited about new things starting. So you need an entrepreneurial spirit. As to whether or not we need people in business, it depends what they're going to do in business, to be honest with you. I mean, we partner with an organization that works in Asia called Impart. Have you heard of them?
No.
They mix business and church planting together. I mean, they've got a vision to plant. It's difficult. There's security issues out there. I've got to be careful what I say. But they've got a vision to transform 100,000 communities in Asia by 2030, and they're on course to do it, certainly before COVID. And they have got a huge partnership between the East and the West, and it's churches partner with them and businesses partner with them, and so the businesses really are funding the church planting all over this nation, and without the business, the churches wouldn't get planted. So I do really believe you need both. And I think that we shouldn't be encouraging all of our young, gifted leaders to be pastors, because I don't believe they're all called to be pastors.
That's wonderful. I think there's definitely a need for both, and there's definitely a need for mixing between the two for both sides to understand each other. And I think that's what Relational Mission Business Link is trying to do. They're trying to get church leaders and business leaders just to really talk to each other so they can talk each other's language and really just go into each other's arenas and empower each other. So there isn't this sort of divide, between the Sunday and the week, but everyone's, strengthening each other and encouraging each other. So that's fantastic. Just coming towards the end here, what couple of nuggets of advice would you give to a young person, 26-year-old, 22-year-old, like you were, setting off in business and you're getting involved in church? What couple of things would you just say to them? Maybe things that you got wrong that you say, do it this way. Make sure you do these 2 or 3 things. What did you say to a younger guy or girl?
I think first and foremost, you've got to look after your soul. I've got a I've got a friend who he asked me the question, and I ask it now to my guys: is your soul happy in God? And I think that's very important because you can start to get your identity as the guy who runs a business and leads a church. And say, oh, people are interested in you because you run a business and lead a church. But actually, it's is your soul happy in God? Look after that
Fantastic.
first and foremost, because if you're not happy and healthy in God, you're not going to be able to disciple and lead your family well. You're not going to be able to run a business well. You're not going to be able to lead a church, and people will get hurt. So you've really got to really look after your own soul. Have people around you that will that do you good and build you up. When I'm with some people, afterwards I feel exhausted because I've given out, given out, given out, given out. And with some people, again, back to that, I feel like I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And you have to have your soul happy in God. So time with the Lord, time with godly people who can sharpen you up. I think that's something I wouldn't compromise on. And then from that position, do everything that God's called you to do.
Fantastic. It's been incredible hearing your story, David. I'm sure we'll hear more from you. Incredible. Thanks a lot.